Hello and welcome back to Guided Souls. I'm your host, Katie, and I'm so excited to be back here for another week with you guys. If you prefer to watch instead of listen, you can head on over to my YouTube channel. And I'm going to dive right in today. Today, we are talking about healing old wounds. So, another light, easy breezy topic. Just kidding. But I think it plays really well off of last week's episode about ending cycles. And, one of the things I mentioned in that episode was once you start to tackle some of the patterns and behaviors that are more surface level and obvious, you may have deep seated things rise to the surface that you didn't even know were patterns that you were repeating or wounds that were holding you back. So, especially if you took last week to sort of work on ending some of those behaviors, maybe that has happened for you. And hopefully, this episode can help you to tackle some of those. So, we are going to talk about why healing wounds is important. I'm going to walk you through a wound that I'm currently healing that I think is going to relate to a lot of people that are listening to this. And I recently did some pretty in-depth rituals to try and heal these wounds that I want to share with you all. And of course, we will end the episode by really diving into how you can apply this to your life. So I don't like healing wounds. I just like to be totally upfront with the stuff that is important, but that I hate. So, healing wounds is one of those things. I would much rather just fix, habits that are on the surface level or change so that I'm getting up earlier or meditating more. Like, I don't want to deal with the stuff that is just deep in my core that is holding me back. However, obviously, those are the things that we really need to dive into and tackle. So, especially if you are going through a spiritual awakening or enlightenment, old wounds will come up. They just absolutely will. They do not magically go away because you are suddenly enlightened. And one of the things that I find the most frustrating about old wounds now that I'm sort of on this spiritual journey is the emotions that they bring up are such a stark contrast to how I want to live my life, how I'm choosing to live my life. And so it almost feels like I don't want to go towards them because it feels like it's putting me in this lower vibration that I don't want to be. Like, I don't want to feel anger towards anyone else. And yet, if I'm having those wounds that are still there, I have to go back and feel that anger in order to clear it and heal it. We cannot just do spiritual bypassing, is something that you might have heard of, where, instead of working through things, you just go over them. It's never going to work. It's always going to come back up for you. So I think one thing that is important with healing old wounds is just recognizing the weight of them, how heavy they are, and how difficult they can be. And our bodies and our minds know when we are ready to tackle these wounds, and they will come to the surface when we are ready. I don't think it's something that we should or need to force out of ourselves. And I think especially making sure that we feel like we are in a good, safe, stable headspace and physical space before we tackle these is very important. So this isn't going to be something that you're going to want to do if you're currently in survival mode. You're definitely going to want to wait till you feel more grounded and centered. And I also just want to put a caveat out there that for many people, this may be best handled through therapy. I am not a mental health professional. This is not mental health advice. Always seek the advice of a medical professional. And in case anyone was wondering, I'm not currently in therapy, but I do have like over a decade of therapy under my belt. So I felt equipped to tackle this on my own. Not that you have to have gone to therapy to tackle this on your own, but just as a caveat, I have done a lot of therapy in my lifetime. And I think this is also especially important if you are feeling stuck, if you are feeling like you can't get to that next level, like you can't end that cycle, you can't start that new beginning. it probably means it's time to look deeper at some of those deep-seated wounds that we carry with us from our childhood or early adulthood that actually ends up holding us back. And the way that I realized I had an old wound or wounds that really needed to be addressed was I kept on feeling really angry and agitated with people over the past couple weeks, which, happens to everybody, but it's not typically the state that I reside in. It's not what I like to reside in. I definitely prefer to be someone who has patience and empathy for people. But I remember there was one day last week where I said to my husband, I'm just annoyed with humanity right now. Like, why can't other people just be self aware, understand how their actions are impacting other people, and act accordingly? And I just felt this heaviness and this annoyance of, why do I and other people have to be the ones that are so self-aware and everybody else just gets to walk around like thinking that everything they're doing is amazing and never taking ownership for their actions? You can call me a lot of things, but lacking self-awareness and the ability to reflect on my actions is not one of them. I will always take ownership for what I've done. I will always apologize. I will always try to grow and be better. And so it's frustrating to me when people don't do that themselves. But I sort of felt like, okay, why is this triggering me so much right now? Like, yes, certainly I still have days where that is a little bit frustrating, that thought that other people aren't necessarily taking accountability for their actions the way that I am. But why is this so triggering right now? And I realized there's definitely a deep-seated wound there that needed to be healed. And one of the reasons that I am bringing it up on this podcast is because I have a feeling that if you are listening to this, you have likely experienced something similar in your lifetime. And for me, what it comes down to is feeling like the world doesn't know how to handle my spirit or my soul. And I hope that this does not come off as me thinking that I am better than anyone else, because I absolutely do not. I just think that I'm different. I just think that I have never fit in, good or bad. Sometimes I stand out in a good way. Sometimes I stand out in a very negative way that triggers people. But I've never been a wallflower, and I've just always felt like people don't know how to handle me, how to react to me, how to support me or love me in the way that I need and want for people to show up for me. And I think there are certain people that come into this world just with pure hearts, pure souls, and they have so much light and joy to spread with the world. And other people around them, without even recognizing it, instead of seeing that as something positive, they see it as something that's negative and threatening. So they will do whatever they can to dim that person's light, to make them feel not good about themselves, to, put lies in their head of who they are and what they should believe about themselves, and really just do what they can to make them feel smaller and to not take up so much space in this world because they see it as a threat. And obviously, I didn't realize that that's what was happening when I was a kid, but I do have this sense that I'm a hard person to be happy for. And that makes me sad just to say that, because I truly pride myself on being the type of person that is so genuinely happy for other people in my life when good things happen to them. And even people I don't know. When I see something good happening for someone, I am so happy for them, even if it's something that I want and I don't have. And it's not that it doesn't make me want that thing. Sometimes it highlights even more how much I want it. And I do feel these feelings of like jealousy and envy, but I never allow that to impact my happiness for that person or how I celebrate them or congratulate them. Like those two things are not connected for me. I can want what someone else has while still being genuinely happy for them and have the ability to celebrate them to the fullest. And I just don't feel like I am awarded that same kindness. There are a lot of people who have made me feel like I am too much in this world, like I should play smaller, take up less space, be quieter, not be so outspoken. And really what they're doing is trying to dim my light so it doesn't take away from theirs. And I feel like I have been taught to cater to other people's insecurities and to not shine as brightly because it makes other people feel threatened and makes them not feel good about themselves. And of course, the last thing I would want is for someone to not feel good about themselves or feel more insecure based on something that I did. And so I have internalized that and acted accordingly in my life. But that makes me angry. That makes me angry that I have had to downplay who I am, make myself smaller to make other people feel better about themselves. And it makes me really angry that I don't have that reaction towards other people. I'm so genuinely happy for them, and other people can't be that way for me. And so it's this feeling of, yes, I want to be this evolved person. Yes, I want to be the type of person who's able to reflect and have self awareness and change and grow. But when other people don't do that in return, it's very, very frustrating to me. And now I know that it comes back to this wound that I have not healed. So when I see this in my everyday life, when I am able to take accountability for my actions and someone else isn't being self aware or reflecting or, apologizing to me or being able to celebrate me, it triggers this deep seated wound in me that I feel like I've never truly been accepted or celebrated for who I am. And in fact, I feel like people my entire life have been trying to make my light dimmer in order to make theirs brighter. And I'm sure this is not a newsflash for anyone listening to this, but just in case anyone was wondering, no matter how hard you try to make someone's light dimmer, even if you succeed at that, it doesn't make yours any brighter. Yours is the same. In fact, yours might be dimmer if you focus all of your time trying to dim someone else's light. And maybe one of the things that keeps people from being able to feel genuinely happy for me or wanting to celebrate me or encouraging me to live life big and loud the way that I want to is because it looks like things come easy to me and come naturally to me, but no one knows how hard I work, how hard I have worked, how hard I continue to work, and how much I have overcome internally to get to the place where I am today. And, I feel like by other people's actions and words, they're basically telling me not to like myself and to hate myself, especially for the things that make me unique, that they are not okay and they are not good. And so I did. I hated myself so deeply. I participated in so many negative behaviors towards myself and hurting myself and my body. And it makes me really sad. Sorry, I'm getting a little bit choked up because no one should be made to feel that way. No one should have the world look at them and say, you don't get to be like that. You shouldn't be like that. And the things that make you unique and special and beautiful are things that you should hate about yourself. People are so much more impressionable than you think. Your words matter. And I was taught to hate myself, so I did. And sometimes I just wonder, how much further in life I would be if I hadn't gone through such a period of darkness and having to get myself from a place of self-hate to self-neutrality to finally self-love. But I know that it was always destined to be a part of my path to go through that pain and that hurt so that I could stop looking externally for validation and recognize that I have all of the love and support that I need with inside of me. And I love that song Fighter by Christina Aguilera. And it was actually one of the first songs I did a solo to and dance when I was a kid. And it's like basically she's saying, you think after all you put me through, I would hate you, but I want to thank you because you made me that much stronger. You made me work a little bit harder. You made me that much wiser. Like, thanks for making me a fighter. And because of what I went through, I know that anytime I have my back against the wall, anytime anyone tells me that I shouldn't be a certain way or I don't get the validation or the love that I'm looking for, guess what? I've been through that before. I know how to love myself. I don't need your approval. I don't need your validation. I don't need you to like me. How freeing is that to know that you don't need somebody to like you because you like yourself? And if I hadn't gone through that, I wouldn't be this strong and stable in who I am and have this strong sense of self. And so I'm grateful for those things that I went through. But it doesn't change the fact that that hurt me very deeply and that that is still a wound that I need to heal, even though I understand why it was a part of my path and it made me stronger and it made me the person who I am today. It still really, really hurts. But I know that this anger is not something that I want to carry around, like, not if, but when other people can't show up for me, can't celebrate me, try to change me, try to dim my light. I don't want to be angry at them. I want to look at them with compassion and empathy and know that the only reason that they are doing that is because I am lighting up some insecurity in themselves and they feel threatened by me. And what other people think of me has very little to do with me and a lot to do with them. And so I want to have compassion for those people that they aren't able to self reflect in that way and have the self awareness to say, hey, maybe I should look inside of myself to heal some of these things instead of lashing out at this person. But in order to get to that place, I really had to go back to those feelings, feel them deeply, get them all out before I could move on. And so I want to share with you a couple rituals that I did that I feel like were very healing to me. You know, I think the most powerful rituals are the ones that feel natural to you, that come naturally to you, that are given to you by your spirit team. So if this does not resonate with you, do not feel like you have to try this or force this. It may unlock something and you're like, yes, that feels incredible. That feels so aligned with me. But it may be, oh, I like the idea of doing some sort of healing ritual, but I'm going to tap into my own, intuition to see what feels right for me. So I actually really don't like writing. I'm much better at speaking than writing, in my opinion. And also, my hand cramps whenever I write too much because I hold my pens and pencils really weird. But I knew that I needed to write this out. I needed to get this all out. And so I waited until I had a day where I didn't have to work. I was by myself, but I also had support systems that I could reach out to and that I was going to see later that day. But I just needed time and space to really feel this deeply and not have to be distracted by so many other things. So regardless of how you choose to do this, I would very much suggest that you do it on a day or days where you do not have work, where you have very little obligations, and where you can spend time by yourself, but also have support systems in place when you need them. So I chose to write letters, some to specific people, some to just society in general, and to get it all out, all of it, all of my anger, all of my sadness. And it was really hard. And I got the first kind of portion out and I just felt so tired. And I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. But it felt like there was something in me that needed to keep going. So I pulled some oracle cards for a little bit more strength. And then I kept going. And I definitely wanted to have the feeling afterwards of getting rid of the word somehow, transmuting them, sending out to the universe to transmute them from pain into love. And I also should mention, I asked my spirit guides and angels and ancestors and past loved ones to put a very protective healing light over me while I did this, and specifically the room in my home that I was in as well, which I think really helped me to feel safe and supported. And then afterwards, I felt very drawn to water and wanting to sort of cleanse these words. So I could have gone to the river and, torn these up and put them in the water, but I didn't want to pollute. And I'm sure I could have gotten like biodegradable paper or whatever, but I didn't. So it felt like my bathtub was as good a space as any to sort of cleanse these words. So as I was filling it up, I was calling on goddesses of water, Celtic goddesses, which I personally connect a lot to, but you could call on absolutely anyone that you want to help you transmute the pain that you have and to release it into the universe and to transmute it into love for the greater good of you and of all. And so I filled up the bathtub, I placed each piece of paper in there and just kept repeating, like, with each paper that I put in, I ask that you help me to let go of these burdens, of these heavy thoughts, of these feelings, of this pain. I ask that these words be released to the universe and be transmuted from pain into love. And just sort of kept repeating whatever came naturally to me in that moment. I would not recommend that this is something that you recite. Like, I wouldn't write down what I just said and recite it. I would say whatever comes naturally to you in that moment. And then I also continued to tear up the pieces of paper while they were in the water, while repeating, similar things as I tear each of these papers. I asked that any pain be lifted, sent to the universe, transmuted into love, something like that. And then once I was done with that, I took a shower myself. I left the pieces of paper in the bath. I took the shower just because I felt like I really wanted to cleanse it fully from my body. And then obviously I didn't want these pieces of paper to go down like the bathtub drain. So I just asked, as I pulled each of them out, that it no longer held any energy, positive or negative, that it was just neutral, and that it was no longer energetically charged. So I pulled them all out, put them in a ball, and I just threw mine away. You could bury them or burn them or whatever. I, again, just didn't want to pollute. I don't feel comfortable with fire, so I ended up just throwing mine away. And then as I released the water and drained the water, just asked that any remaining pain be funneled down the drain, away from me, away from my home, and just again into the universe to be transmuted from pain into love, from darkness into light. And you don't have to do this, but I also was harboring a lot of pain and anger towards myself and some of the things that I've done. So I also, after that, took a break. I didn't just go straight into this. I took a break and then I came back and wrote letters to myself too, of all the things that, I am embarrassed that I've done, that I held any shame or guilt around, that I had anger to myself for. And then I repeated that exact same thing for those letters as well. And then after that, I went on a walk with my dogs and just got outside and asked that Mother Earth heal me and help process and remove any residual pain or energy that was left behind. And a lot of times when I have these really deep healing, or like I go through a really big crying episode, I feel so tired afterwards and like I just want to go to sleep. And this time was interesting that I felt really strong. I felt like I had just shown myself how strong I was and how strong I could be. And so that actually gave me a sense of feeling powerful and strong. And I woke up the next day still feeling a little bit of residual energy, still feeling a little bit of anger. So I went on a walk down to the river just by myself and just sat there and asked again that any goddesses of water or Celtic goddesses come and help to remove any residual energy or pain away from me through the water. And this also happened to be on the day of the full moon and lunar eclipse, so I think that really made it extra powerful. And when I tell you, I was just in the best, lightest mood after that. Like nothing could kill my vibe. I was just flying high without any drugs, just feeling on top of the world and like I had just done something so powerful and amazing and had given this gift to myself and to the universe. Because how much more loving and compassionate can I be now that I have healed these wounds and really taken any painful energy away from them? It'll always be a part of my story. These will always be memories that I have, but it doesn't have to define my story. It's just one chapter. And while I am grateful for the growth that it has brought me, I no longer want to hold on to any of that hurt or pain. And I want to just move forward with my life. And so for you, if you are wanting to heal old wounds, the very first thing that I would do is just take inventory of how you're feeling. Are you ready? Is now a good time? Would you prefer to have professional help working through this? I do think it's important that we only go here when we're ready. And we do have to push ourselves to go there because it's never going to feel good. But you can feel if you're feeling stable, calm, and centered versus chaotic survival mode. But also if things keep coming up for you, past memories that are making you feel emotional or angry or hurt, that's probably a sign that it's something that needs to be healed. So once you've determined that it is a good time for you and you do want to address them, I would just take a look at what is your version of getting it all out. Is it writing letters like I did? Are you a musician? Do you prefer to write songs? If you are a dancer, do you want to choreograph something? Do you want to paint something? Do you want to talk to a professional? Is that your way of getting it all out? Now, whatever feels most authentic to you, I would go towards that. And then I would create a safe container around that. So whatever activity you choose, whatever version of getting it all out, I would create a safe container by calling on your spirit guides. This is so simple. I really think that people try and overcomplicate these things. All I do when I'm doing this is I put my hands over my heart, I close my eyes, I take 3 deep breaths, and then I just literally call on angels, ancestors, past loved ones, spirit guides, goddesses, whoever, and ask that they help create a safe container in this room and to protect me as I go into this darkness and help me to stay grounded and centered and bring me back into the light once I have finished this. I also think it's important to take breaks. If you are feeling like it's too much to conquer in one day, that's okay. It can span over a couple different days. I do think it's important to push ourselves to finish it in a semi-short period of time, because otherwise you're just you've opened this wound, but you haven't healed it. So if it's over a few days or maybe even a week, it's okay. But I wouldn't draw it out much longer than that unless you decide you get into it and it's too heavy and you can't face it right now. That is understandable. And that is also when I would urge you to seek professional help in dealing with this. Then you can look at what ceremony of releasing or what ritual of releasing will feel most natural to you. I do think that if you can involve the elements in some way, so, water, fire, earth, air, somehow I do think that that can be very healing, but it can be different for everyone. For me, I do find water very healing and soothing, but maybe you will feel better putting it into the fire or burying it in the earth. Make sure it's biodegradable if you're going to do that, but figure out how you want to release this. Again, I would do it on a day where you can be alone and you can have time to heal and recover. But I would also have someone that you can call or that you're already going to see afterwards, someone that you feel very safe with, very grounded, like you don't have to put on some sort of performance for them. For me, my husband was golfing while I did this, but I knew he was coming home and I knew we would be spending time together that evening. So something like that. And nature is so healing. I would so encourage you, whether you actually do this in nature or go into nature afterwards, to allow Mother Earth to heal you. And like, again, don't overcomplicate it. Just go on a walk and ask for the soil beneath your feet to help heal you and to take away any residual energy or pain and transmute it into love and send it out to the universe. I don't even want it to be sent back to me. I want it to be sent out to the universe, and whatever feels natural to you in saying that, I think that that is very powerful. I want to reiterate again, this work is not easy. I do not like it, but it's also some of the most important work you'll ever do. It's what will set your soul free. It's what will allow you to grow. And ultimately, getting through these things are one of the main reasons why our souls came here. And I know that we want to soak up all the joy and the love, which is incredible. But we came here to learn and to grow. And the way that we do that is through working through this pain and this trauma and this darkness to get to a place of light and enlightenment and compassion. So I hope that was helpful for you. I hope that this gives you some good ideas of ways that you can heal your own wounds when the time comes and when you're ready. And I do think that this goes hand in hand with the ending cycles that we talked about last week. So even if you're not ready to tackle this right now, I would suggest you kind of earmark this episode to come back to when you're ready, because this is such important work. And I'm hopeful that next week's topic will be lighter, but I just go by whatever I'm going through in the moment, so we will have to wait and see what that is. If you are enjoying this podcast and you haven't already, please make sure to rate, review, and subscribe. Just in case anyone was wondering, when you write a review on Apple on a podcast, you get to choose how your name shows up. So if that's something that has been holding you back, like you don't want your name on this, I totally understand, but you can choose whatever type of username you want to show up in the review. And those written reviews really help me out in terms of people finding podcasts, like a new podcast, and scrolling and seeing what the reviews are. So even if it's just one sentence, I would so appreciate if you would write me a review, give me a 5-star rating, and subscribe as well. And I've also gotten some really beautiful emails. I continue to get beautiful emails just letting me know the impact that this podcast is having on you, which means so much to me. Like, I don't know if you guys understand how much your words and validation with this podcast mean to me. Not that I'm, relying on that, but it does feel like, okay, I'm doing this for a reason. There are people out there who are helping, and it really helps me to keep going. So if you want to shoot me an email, you can email guidedsoullllc@gmail.com. It's also in the show notes. And yeah, until next time, keep going. You're doing amazing, and I love you.